Other interesting political news, you have Biden proposes to pay off student loans despite the Supreme Court ruling that you can't do that last year. Now, this comes directly from Biden's Twitter X profile, though, again, I don't know if it's really him tweeting this. It was really revealed last year this press secretary was actually doing it for him when she unwisely, well, we all know she's not very wise, Mr. Karine Jean-Pierre, but nevertheless, she actually had an incident where she tweeted from her personal profile, and it was the vernacular of Biden, as if it was from his perspective. So she's not even smart enough to know how to change the profiles on her ex-Twitter account. So we'll say this allegedly was tweeted by Biden. He said, quote, "My administration is proposing we cancel the debts of 2 million borrowers who are eligible for debt forgiveness through the SAVE plan, public service student loan forgiveness, or other debt cancellation programs, but haven't enrolled yet. You deserve relief," unquote. And that did get 1.7 million views, but only 13,000 likes, which, again, that's still a fair amount of likes. Truth be told, not to brag, but I did get 6 likes on one of my videos last week. As youth might say, that went relatively viral. Now, again, the Supreme Court said you can't do this, and yet this isn't the first time we've seen this administration just ignore the Supreme Court and do whatever they want. Very similar to how they forced private companies and landlords to, just not charge for rent during the pandemic lockdowns. And during that time, actually, the government said, oh yeah, we know this is not, the Biden administration said, we know this isn't constitutional, but we're going to do it anyway. And they did, which shockingly more Americans didn't get upset with. Now, that being said, from a political perspective, it's actually a good move. Bribery works. A lot of people would appreciate you just pay off their loans. Again, this isn't $2 million. This is 2 million individuals. And there are many mechanisms where the government already pays off the student loans. Again, there's no such thing as student forgiveness. The money's coming from somewhere. So if you work, for example, for the government in some type of entity, in terms of you work at maybe a local police department or you're a federal employee, if you pay the bare minimums on your student loans, in some cases, after a certain amount of years, the government will just pay off the rest. Also known as you will, and I will, subsequently, because again, the government doesn't create value or money, they just take it, they tax it. Well, they create fiat money, which actually causes hyperinflation and it's basically just junk. But I'm partially digress. But again, this is a great way to buy votes. It is the election year. And there are a lot of students who took out loans, and I partially blame the public schools for being so wholesomely inept. Not all of them, but many. In terms of, in my case, they told my whole middle school, high school, they told them all, if you want to be successful, you have to go to college. Even if you have no idea what you want to be when you grow up, go to college. Ironically, I've met more millionaires and more successful people, entrepreneurs and business owners, who have high school degrees than actual college degrees. I know a lot of colleagues or former people I went to college with who got BS degrees. Now, I don't mean a bachelor's in science. Well, in some cases, yes. I mean bullshit degrees, pardon the French. There had actually no correlation to the real world. With one of my old high school buddies got an MBA. What was it? No, not an MBA. You could argue that'd be worth it for the business connections. He got a master's in English and history, and they ended up bartending. So he's got 6 figures, because again, he got the college degree, then went to the master, 6 figures of student loan debt to be a bartender. No private business or bank would ever give you a loan for those types of terrible degrees. There's so many people with underwater basket weaving degrees, it's ridiculous. A bank would laugh you out of the room if you said that. Now, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or some type of instance where it would be beneficial to have traditional training, then yeah, they would fund those 8 days a week. But right now, college loans are federally insured, aka you can't ever get rid of them, and they're guaranteed by the government. Another reason why colleges are so prohibitively expensive for some people and just go up in price, while I would argue the value seems the same, if not maybe a little bit low. The prices go up and up and up because there's no incentive for them to lower prices. They know you're going to pay whatever they want, and the loans are guaranteed. And colleges get paid basically day one. So you're actually, in many instances, you're not paying the college back directly, you're paying back the people who took out the loan from, the third parties. Now, again, I think this could sway, I'm not sure how many voters. Again, those 2 million people will probably be pretty happy if this does go through. And there are a lot of people struggling right now. A lot of people have, student loans. I'm still paying them off. Ironically, I learned more in the first year of starting business than I did in all 4 years of business school. But I'm not abdicating my responsibility. I'm paying it back slowly but surely. And I always tell people, if you have loans, you should continue to live on a college budget. There's the reason my phone is, the Samsung Galaxy S10, which most people would consider an antique. Might be a business justification to get a new one this year, but it still works. my watch is, what is it, 7 or 8 years old by now? So it's one of those things where I always tell people, if you still got loans, you should probably live a humble life and just work like hell to pay them off. Now, partially digress, in terms of political strategy, while I don't agree with this, obviously I don't think it's moral for someone else to pay someone else's loan off, especially if you never took out a loan to begin with. Imagine if you're a plumber working hard and now you have to pay for someone's underwater basket weaving degree because they chose a degree that had no correlation to the real world, actually making a living. Doesn't seem fair with anyone with modicum of intelligence. Now, that being said, I think it's actually a good political move because many people will agree with this. Many people want free money. It's one of the bad things about politics on the left and the right. You have a lot of de facto bribery. They're not just giving, not just putting cash in your pocket, but you have all these quote unquote relief programs that will get votes. Now, the real question is, will this gain more votes from the people who are getting the loans for quote unquote forgiven, aka paid off by someone else, or could it alienate a voter base where they don't agree with this policy? They don't like that they're being taxed at a greater rate, or their tax dollars being given to someone else for the decisions that they chose to make. I suspect, people on the left and people on the right, there are certain vote bases that are kind of just baked in. They'll vote for whatever person's on the ballot, regardless, just because it has an R or a D by their name. It's really wonder how many people in the middle can you persuade that you have the best methodologies to fix problems and you think you have the best methodologies to put the country in a best direction to make it most beneficial. And that being said, I think, in the past couple of years, people have seen how much, in many instances, not all, that college has basically become a legal scam. And fascinatingly enough, it's just astonishing how many people have their lives detrimentally impacted negatively because they took out these loans that they didn't comprehend, but they still signed on the dotted line. And everyone told them, yeah, this is a great idea, Billy. You should get an English degree. Even though you don't want to teach English. You don't know what you want to do. You should probably spend $100,000 on that. What? Ridiculous. But again, let me know. Do you think? I think this will be an overall net negative for Biden. There will be some people who will see this message and vote for him because they see it, because they want this student relief debt, or more accurately put, they want someone else to pay for off their loans. But I think overall, more people will disagree with this statement, so it might backfire. But maybe I'm alone in my assessment. Maybe every single comment will be applauding the president for this proposal, and they are just really desperate to get that free money. Stat in the comments and find out. One of the first ones comes from Paul Zazupa saying, quote, "Canceling student loan debt is constitutional. Nancy Pelosi said so, as did the Supreme Court. Biden is just trying to buy votes," unquote, getting 2.3 thousand likes. And that is actually a retweet from an article from 2023 in June where the Supreme Court struck down the student loan forgiveness program, which, again, framing and vernacular is important. There's a reason why many politicians and many people will analyze what they say for days before they actually say it. Again, that sounds fancy, student loan forgiveness. Oh, it's so compassionate. Probably won't be as attractive of an idea if someone said, you're going to pay off someone else's loans because they messed up. You're financially responsible with your life decisions and you chose the right path, but you're going to bail out Sally because she decided to go for a degree in lesbian dance. That is no correlation to the real world or making a living. Now, scrolling down, you have Rachel. She says, quote, "Hit the like button if Joe Biden is the worst president in your lifetime," unquote, getting 2.3 thousand likes. That being said, depending on your age, it's a small sample size, relatively speaking. Traditionally, it's usually president every 8 years, with one of the few outliers being the 2020 election. But still. Dre Mariano says, quote, "The Supreme Court will overturn this BS, just all fake election tactics," getting 1.4 thousand likes. DC Drano says, quote, "So I had to pay back my student loans by myself, and now my tax dollars are used to repay other people's loans. Seems fair," unquote, getting 9.3 thousand likes, which, again, I think that is a very popular sentiment. A lot of people, I believe, are going to agree with that statement because, again, it's quite literally the definition of not fair. Matt simply said, "Relieving meaning what? Taxpayers pay it for instead of the people who took out the loan and benefit from it?" It looks like a truck stop sign where they changed the sign to say, "There's no such thing as government funded, it's all taxpayer funded," I'm quoting 996 likes. Harrison Crank says, quote, "Find the university endowments to pay for this. Millions of 18-year-olds were scammed by America's university systems," getting 320 likes. fascinating. I believe Harvard has a 40, is it 42? It's in the $40 billion endowment, I believe. Actually, let's pull it up really quick. Let's just say they're not hurting for money anytime soon, but they're one of the most well-known for having an endowment system, or having a high endowment size. Jeez Louise, they are good at investing. Wow. Harvard, and again, this is from an endowment as of fiscal 2023. Harvard has a $49.495 billion endowment. And it is also the largest of all the universities, according to Wikipedia, which is quite a pretty penny to say the least. Well, a pretty vintage penny, since modern pennies are 99.99% zinc and just really thinly copper plated. Scrolling down, you have Savannah saying, quote, why are you putting this burden onto the rest of the American taxpayers? The government doesn't have any money. You're attempting to steal taxpayer dollars to do this. SCOTUS has already ruled against you. You are not above the law. Getting 665 likes, though kind of is above the law when you consider the document storage charges were dropped against him when the Department of Justice said, well, we don't think you're fit to stand trial, so we're not going to charge you for this. And yet Trump is being taken to the courts for that same exact charge of improperly storing classified documents. So I think you could actually argue, yeah, in some cases, specifically that case, above the law. Joe Biden press release parody account says, quote, we will also cancel your mortgage and credit card debt if you believe it's unfair. I'm getting 719 likes, which, again, there are some people who think landlords are evil and blaming them for all their problems. When, yeah, that was supposed to be a joke tweet, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities in terms of, again, the government forced landlords to basically not charge for their services during the pandemic when the government forced everything to shut down. Gunther Eagleman says, quote, what's next? Reparations, unquote? Well, yeah, as well as a middle finger emoji. That got 1,000 likes, which, again, that would buy a lot of votes, specific demographics. And those are very popular with certain segments of the United States. Now, overall, if you poll people on average, well more than 50% do not agree with historic reparations, because it's very similar to the situation. You have someone else paying for someone else's deeds. Now, you also have Ranger Monk saying, quote, are you also going to forgive mortgage loans? Getting 162 likes. Someone by the name of You Know the Thing says, quote, you have already done enough. And it's an infographic of Biden, and it says, since Biden took office, overall prices have increased by 18.6%. Food prices are up 21.2%. Rent is up 20%. Electricity is up 28.4%. Hashtag Biden economics. And it says Jim to, what is this? Jimlo EPA Shutterstock, I guess for the photo credit. Annoyingly enough, they didn't give you a link to actual statistics that break down all those numbers or how they calculate those numbers, annoyingly enough, but that did get 109 likes. The best way says, quote, you cannot bribe your way back into another term. This is not legal and is grossly unfair. How many times do the courts have to slap you down? Unquote, getting 110 likes. He says that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that you can bribe your way into another term. I mean, again, it helped get some votes in the past. Scrolling down more and more. Patriot MAGA guy says, quote, given the courts said no, this action officially makes you a dictator, quoting 495 likes. Let's see here. There's got to be some contrarian thoughts or contrarian statements here. Kevin Dalton simply said you're buying votes with taxpayer dollars, getting 241 likes. Let's see. Ramp Capital says, quote, my mortgage identifies as a student loan. I'm getting 115 likes. Let's see. For America says, quote, your administration is proposing something that is unconstitutional, getting 416 likes. Which, again, also shows you the fascinating confirmation bias by the mainstream media. If Trump ever suggested anything that was unconstitutional, it'd be on the news outlets 24/7, and they'd all be viscerally critiquing him. And yeah, in this case, most of the mainstream media aren't even touching this. And if they are touching this topic, they're framing it in a positive way, saying how it's forgiveness and helping people. So overall, at least on X Twitter, as Youth Must Say got ratioed by the comment section, I mean, I scrolled down for quite a bit, couldn't find a single positive comment. And that being said, there are people who do want this program. They want the free money. And again, I do think they have been somewhat screwed by the public school systems because in many cases, the public schools brainwash kids to think that's the only way you can be successful in life, is go to yet another public university, go to another college, spend even more money. So I understand that. And again, it sucks. There are some people who took out some BS degrees, pun moderately intended, that had no correlation to the real world, had no correlation to getting a real job. And at the end of the day, it's fascinating. It's tax season too. I mean, most of these schools aren't teaching you anything about taxes, mortgages, how to properly use a credit card. I mean, there's just so, in not all cases, but there's so much value they aren't providing. They could be. It'll be interesting to see if they ever actually change their value prompt to add more value or decrease their costs. But again, because of the aforementioned, things that I said a couple minutes ago, the loans are guaranteed. It's the one type of debt you can't erase. You can erase credit card debt, you can erase medical debt, but through bankruptcy process, you can never get rid of student loan debt. It's federally guaranteed. I mean, so for that reason, I don't think the cost will go down anytime soon. Even if we do have a decrease in popularity where less people start to go to the institutions. You also have an issue where there's not much diversity on these campuses. I mean, it's in the 90th percentile, like 99.7% of the teachers were all wildly left-wing. Now, thankfully, I went to college in the Midwest. There's a little more diversity of opinion, but even there, at University of Iowa, most teachers were as youth might say, leftist. And personally, I think if you want a good rounded education system, you should have multiple perspectives and multiple ideals to discuss, and talk about what solutions might be best. But let me know in the comments. Do you think this will be another lightning rod for the election? Do you think it could gain some more steam? Again, it got over 1 million views. There are a lot of people who would agree with it, and there are a lot of people who would benefit from this. Also, a lot of people will be hurt by this because their tax dollars are going to be increased or going to be going somewhere else. I mean, the U.S. debt is, $34 trillion? Let's pull that up really quick for a depressing last note. Let's see here. U.S. debt clock. Another fascinating thing to think back to, even when Obama first got elected, he said, having a debt is, it's unpatriotic, it's bad. And all left and right, the president's just racked up that fees and all that debt. So now that the debt is at 34,639 billion, and it just goes up literally every second. And the debt persistent also going up. Obviously, debt per taxpayer going up, and the federal budget deficit going up. And I mean, they just keep taking more and more money. The U.S. government revenue is also going up, but again, it's not closing that delta. It's a net negative. And it won't be long before all the money we're paying down is just paying down the interest on the loans that we have as a government or as a country. It's not even paying down the principal, which things they should have taught in college that they don't for a lot of people. It is not good for the country long term. And I mean, maybe at the end of the day, we just have to sell off something we don't use, like Hawaii or something. I don't know. But something's going to give at the end of the day because the bills are going to come due. And it's going to be quite concerning when that time comes. But let me know, do you think this is going to be a hot political issue for the upcoming election? Could it resonate with the majority of Americans that would actually propel Biden up in the polls? Again, there are some people who agree with it, but as always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.